Well, here we are, our first ever procurement spotlight episode. Of course, part of our wider procurement podcast, the Reform Rundown series, where here we're going to take an absolutely unscripted view on recent news items from the world of procurement. Fleur, I don't know about you, but I feel like this is, because I think it's unscripted, a little bit of uncharted territory for us, a little bit of nerves, a little bit of trepidation, but also some excitement too.
Yeah, it feels a bit weird. I'm not sure what either of us are going to come out with. Yeah, it's could be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, I think to that very point, we don't know how this is going to play out. We're just
Mhm.
trying something new, trying to bring you guys something a little bit different, different angle, different take on things. And so essentially what we've done is we've picked 6 news items that we're going to individually read through and share our views. Now, Fleur and I don't know the news items that each one of us have picked. The only remit is that we have 2 domestic pieces of news each, so news here in the UK and 1 international news piece. Other than that, the
Are they the
notes that
rules? Are they the rules?
those are the rules. Those are
Those are
the
the
only
rules.
rules that we have. Those are the only rules that we have, and we just essentially just share our views and our notes. Make no bones about it. I've got handwritten notes here.
No.
I'm guessing you have as well, Fleur.
Yeah,
Yeah, some form of notes. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, Pity I can't read my handwriting, so I mean, I think that
If
might
we're
be a
looking
bit.
down, it's because we got our notes.
Exactly. But I'm looking down and I still can't read them. So,
Oh gosh,
it's a
no
bit
good
of a
start for you.
concern there. Bit of a concern there. But yeah, we'll just play it out and see how it goes. How are we going to do this? Are we going to toss a coin? Who wants to go first, Fleur? I mean, I'm happy to, but if you want to take the lead on our first ever news article, it's up to you.
Shall I go?
If you want to, yeah, go for it.
Okay. So the one that I've got was an announcement by the government commercial function. You might have seen this on LinkedIn. So they have announced that on the 20th and 22nd of May, they are holding a meetup on contracts for innovation and exploring new possibilities. So this is around Explore Innovate UK's activities and support available in relation to the procurement of innovation. So very topical in terms of Procurement Act and how you can procure innovation and incorporate that. It also links very much to maximising the benefits of the competitive flexible procedure, so how you can design your own process and build different parts into it. And they've got an aim of delivering efficiencies throughout the different solutions. So just as a bit of background, so Innovate UK is part of UK Research and Innovation and is the UK's innovation agency. They've detailed on their website that their mission is to help companies to grow through their development and commercialization of new products, processes and services, supported by an outstanding innovation ecosystem that is agile, inclusive and easy to navigate. So I guess in terms of this one, it's around if you're in public sector, obviously public sector employee, make sure to have a look on the Government Commercial College because that is how you can book your place. And obviously they'll have more details on there in terms of it, but it's a great opportunity in terms of the new competitive flexible procedure, having discussions, learning about how you can procure innovative ideas and approaches. So anyone in a public sector, it's probably worthwhile having a look, seeing if that's something you want to attend and booking yourself onto it. So that's on
Excellent.
the 20th and I think 22nd of May, although my writing might be a bit funny, but I think it's the 22nd of May.
Chances are we'll probably give a shout out to that one again in one of our future podcast episodes as well.
Yeah,
As it's
yeah.
fairly recent
Just
in
very
terms of
topical with the competitive
indeed.
stage of it. Good
Absolutely.
opportunity.
Absolutely. Excellent. Probably worth mentioning as well, Fleur, and this is where your creativity comes in and my very limited knowledge of how this works in terms of videos on YouTube. But we're going to try and get the articles
Down
linked.
below. All the links will be down below in the description and maybe something on the screen whilst I'm there.
I leave it to your creative license and expertise. Which is quite funny because I'm looking in this direction over here to the right of me because I see a mug here that says Chris the Procurement podcast tech guru. I don't know whether this is something that
I
you
may have
said
got
to
them
me or
wrong
something.
around the wrong way, really, hadn't I?
Yeah.
Maybe
I
I
think
should have
so.
that one.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I was going to take that, own it, and run with it and be tech guru, but the reality of it is that couldn't be any further from the truth, could it? Let's be honest. Right, excellent. So, next news article then, and an item that we want to discuss today. Now, this comes from Construction News, and this is around Eni, the organisation Eni. I'll give some more details around them in a moment. They are going to begin a £2 billion CCS procurement for Liverpool Bay as part of the Liverpool Bay scheme. Now, when I was reading through this, Fleur, the first hurdle that I had to overcome is, in fact, CCS is not Crown Commercial
Oh yeah,
Services.
that's what I was just thinking.
Same. As soon as I saw the headline, I thought, oh, okay, it's Crown Commercial
Just an
Services.
acronym that's like you just like enjoy.
Indeed, yeah. But in fact, actually, it stands for the Carbon Capture and Storage. Carbon Capture and Storage. So there we go. Every day's a school day.
Mhm.
So who are Eni? Well, they are a key player in UK's energy transition contribution to the decarbonisation of strategic industrial areas through the utilisation of offshore wind and carbon capture storage. So that was like a little bit of research into who they are, and unless I'm mistaken, the article doesn't actually break down what provisions are included as part of this £2 billion worth of supply contract. So I imagine that this is something that's going to come out over the forthcoming weeks and months in terms of the breakdown of the requirements as part of this wider scheme itself. But however, what it does say is Liverpool Bay project itself is part of the high net industrial cluster scheme in the north, spanning North Wales and northwest of England. Liverpool Bay, however, is an initiative that aims at reducing carbon emissions and supporting the UK's decarbonisation efforts itself. Whilst Eni are the developer, they are partnered by, and I'm going to do my best to pronounce some of these, in Crisis, EET, Viridor, Heidelberg Materials, and Progressive Energy. So they're part of a wider scheme which is headed up by Eni. Their objectives, simply, again, carbon capture, capture of CO2 emissions from industrial sources and transporting them to storage sites. And the storage of the CO2 is permanently stored in identified offshore gas reservoirs under Liverpool Bay itself. Now, one of the other big takeaways from this article itself is that it is estimated by the government that the project itself and the construction phase that is about to begin is going to bring around 2,000 jobs to the area. So that's one to watch there, and the news there is coming from an article online from Construction News.
Excellent. That's quite a big scheme and something to keep an eye on, isn't it?
Indeed. What you got next for us, Fleur?
Okay, so my next one is, I think this is my international one.
Okay.
So this was around something from how Procter and Gamble, so P&G, and WWF are driving sustainable sourcing progress. They used Earth Day to celebrate 15 years of collaboration that has embedded sustainability at the heart of the former's sourcing and supply chain. So Earth Day, I think, was last week. So they used that as an opportunity to celebrate their collaboration. They talked around how their collaboration has helped to drive key sustainability initiatives across a broad scope of areas, including forestry, the use of bio-based plastics, and climate and energy related solutions. So notes. So obviously, just a bit of background, Procter and Gamble is an American multinational consumer goods corporation based in the US. And they specialize in a wide range of personal health, consumer health, and personal care and hygiene products. And obviously, WWF, for more than 60 years, they have worked to help people and nature thrive. And they work in nearly 100 countries, collaborate with people around the world to develop and deliver innovative solutions that protect communities, wildlife, and the places in which they live. So they sort of talked around how this collaboration over the past decade and a half has helped to drive key sustainability initiatives across a broad scope of areas. And on Earth Day, they celebrated the partnership, acknowledging the impact that's possible when global companies unite with an environmental, when they unite with an environmental conservation organisation. Let me just have a look. So I think that one was quite a good one around how what's possible if they work together and
Yes.
collaborate, and how you got two different areas coming together. So I
I,
think
I-
it's,
sorry, Flo, I was just going to say, but essentially, like on a global scale, right? It's
yeah,
interesting.
massive global scale.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you think about like the core of the podcast series we've got, and of course, focusing on the Procurement Act and that being of UK centric, obviously. That you see the drives around sustainability in relation to
Sustainable
that, and
procurement.
you can compare and
Yeah.
contrast. There is a trend developing here, isn't there? And the article that you've just shared with us there is very much from a global perspective. And to your very valid point, it just shows you what actually can be achieved with organisations
Yeah.
working
So whilst
together.
this is like obviously like a much bigger, larger global scale, it's two massive companies working
Yes.
together in terms of collaboration for sustainable approaches. It just gives an indication of what you could achieve on, like, I know you're on a much smaller scale on your public sector contracts under procurements and stuff like that, but you can still, if you work together with your suppliers, what you could potentially achieve in terms of collaboration. So I think it's, whilst it's like quite a large example, it does give an overview in terms of like what collaboration can achieve if you work together.
Exactly, and with the organisations being so huge and with their global reach, I'm sure that there'll be a lot of best practice that people
Yeah.
can look at and hopefully aspire to falling out of that
Yeah.
activity as well. So brilliant, excellent. Well, I'll go next then, and I'll stay in the
Oh,
UK then.
international.
Yeah. Well, actually, well, again, so I've got one that's international and I've got one that's UK. So I'll let you choose, Fleur. Where do you want me to go?
Why don't we stay international soon? So I've just done
Okay.
international one.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Just rejig my notes there a
Oh.
moment then. So
I told you it's all unscripted. Who knew where this was going to go?
yeah, exactly. I've made a rod for my own back here. I'm not doing that.
He hasn't
Absolutely.
given me a script. He hasn't told me what to say.
Oh, dear. Right then, here we go. So my news article has actually come from Canada, Calgary, no
Oh.
less. So we're going to transport ourselves across to America for a moment or two then. So this article is in relation to Calgary Fire Department and their procurement challenges by way of supply chain issues, which are, as you can imagine, aligned to the recent challenges in relation to tariffs coming from the United
Mm.
States and in general industry consolidation. So I want to make something clear here, Fleur, then. So it's funny, we were talking off air about this just a moment or two, or just before the recording. So straight off the bat, we're not a political podcast series. The material we produce is not aligned to any political party in any way, shape, or form. But of course, what we do in the world of procurement, naturally, politics and procurement do collide on occasions, and that's just how it is. So, as for the article itself, then, so Steve Dongworth, Chief of Calgary Fire Department, has highlighted that most of their equipment is sourced three United States manufacturers. And the recent announcement around tariffs, of course, coming out of the US has led to long delivery timescales and, of course, with that, increased costs. By the same token, global inflation has driven fire truck prices up by 50%, would you believe, since COVID-19. There is, of course, going to be a lot of continued dialogue between United States and Canada in terms of tariffs, which again is going to drag on further from a procurement perspective by way of acquisitions of materials and delays in the supply chain, etc. But also the relationships between Canadian and United States buyers and suppliers alike between the two nations. And it's probably also worth mentioning, very topical, because just this week, Canada has just gone through their federal, or what we would call here in the United Kingdom, general election, with Mark Carney remaining as Prime Minister, who, of course, many of you will be fully aware, was the former governor of the Bank of England. And no doubt, I'm sure that him and Donald Trump will be having further negotiations around tariffs, which will ultimately impact on the content of the article I'm talking about here. Calgary Fire and just organisations between the two nations in general, the US and Canada, and those negotiations around tariffs. So we'll be continuing, I guess, between the two nations very soon. So that's my global piece of news there. But I think actually what it shows, again, as I just mentioned, Fleur, is that politics naturally does have an impact on procurement activity, and this is an instance of international challenges by way of the recent situation in relation to tariffs.
Okay, so are we heading back to the UK news now?
Yes, let's do that. Let's do that. You got one more for us, Fleur?
One more, and then you've got one more, haven't you?
I have indeed. I have.
In terms of mine, heading back to the UK, so this was a post by Procurement Act Live on LinkedIn. So they shared that, or they started sharing details of opportunities that are being published under the Procurement Act. And in the past week, they shared a post around Great British Nuclear, who was launching their 600 million planned procurement notice. And they are aiming to procure up to 2 owners engineers as part of its small modular reactor SMR program. So obviously this was a notice under the new Procurement Act, which again is interesting because it's some of the first ones that have been published. But so this procurement is being run under the new Procurement Act and is utilising the competitive flexible procedure. So again, a new process that is being used. The estimate value is about 600 million over 14 years, and we'll see winning firms act as independent technical and delivery advisors across 2 potential SMR projects. And the planned procurement notice details it's about 600 million, as mentioned, estimate, and assumes that they will award 2 contracts, each with a total value of 300 million. They provided quite a lot of information in the notice about the technical ability and conditions of participation that suppliers need to meet to participate in the procurement, which again is terminology and areas that we are now seeing under the Procurement Act. And it details that SMEs will have the chance to participate in the procurement. So again, this is another thing having regard to SMEs through being part of tenderers' supply chain, or joint ventures or special purpose vehicles or consortiums. So the tender notice for any suppliers that are interested is to be issued around the 2nd of June. So something to keep an eye out. Obviously, this was just a planned procurement notice. Still can't get around forgetting that that's the PIN and talking in the new world. But the tender notice, which obviously starts the procurement, is the 2nd of June. And from looking at it in terms of the competitive flexible procedure, what they've sort of said at the moment is that it will be a 2-stage sort of process. Stage 1 will be the procurement specific questionnaire, which incorporates the conditions of participation, which they've quite detailed already. And then stage 2, so if they pass that first stage, they'll be invited to submit a tender. And also they've reserved the right to refine the award criteria, which again is something from the competitive flexible procedure. So that's quite a large scale project that's being published. And yeah, just one to keep an eye out on the 2nd of June for the tender notice.
Absolutely. And you say keep an eye, and I would suggest the public sector in general, all eyes on that one, given the size of the
Size of that one and a
opportunity.
competitive flexible, yeah. So
And the
it's
approach.
interesting to see what they're doing.
Yeah. Should we stick a pin in that one and watch that closely one through our podcast?
Yeah, maybe. We'll look
Yeah, we'll see how that one plays out. That's a great piece of news, that one. Excellent. Okay, then. So the final article I'm going to run through today then is also in the northwest of England, very similar because, of course, Liverpool Bay being in Liverpool. We're now going to go to Manchester, and the article I'm covering is in relation to Transport for Greater Manchester, where they are just about to begin their procurement exercise for a new 1.6 billion Metro Link contract. And the source point for this article is Railway News. Now, a story that's very close to my heart, and reading through the article kind of brought back memories of my time working at Midland Metro Limited, and I'll go into that in a moment or two. But yeah, a light rail program, of course, and the article discusses an operating and maintenance contract for Metrolink for Transport for Greater Manchester. And as you can imagine, these are not short-term contracts. This one will run, once awarded, for a period of up to 11 years. As for the existing arrangement, the existing operator and maintainer arrangement, this is with an organisation called Keolis Amy. Metrolink, which as the name suggests, is a joint venture which is due to expire expire at the back end of 2027. So if you think about it as a procurement exercise, this is quite an elongated process for
It takes
obvious
time though,
reasons.
doesn't it, to go
Yeah,
through everything?
it certainly does. It certainly does, Fleur. I'm thinking about, again, my time at Midland Metro Limited, and when we did our operator and maintainer contract arrangements, those timescales seem to align, and as you say, given the length of the contracts, there's and the value, of course, is a very good reason behind that. Going back to Keola Sami, again, as I says, as the name suggests, this is a joint venture, which again, in this space, in this environment, joint venture contract arrangements are very common. The new operator and maintainer procurement exercise aims to appoint a partner for what is the biggest light rail network within the UK. Just by way of a comparison for a moment here. So Transport for Greater Manchester has 99 stops right now, which I imagine is quite
Wow.
annoying. It's probably quite annoying, isn't it? It's like, let's go for the three figures. Let's go and create a stop somewhere.
Yeah.
But also it has 103 kilometres of track, whereas Midland Metro, again by way of comparison, and the network that I was responsible for a procurement perspective, has 33 stops between Birmingham and Wolverhampton, with just 24 kilometres of track currently. So just a little bit of a compare and comparison in terms of size there. As with Midland Metro, Transport for Greater Manchester Metrolink is no different in that it's continuing to explore its network expansion. Routes and line extensions are planned ahead, plus multimodal tram train connections. So it's a really exciting time for the network and the area itself. In 2024, Fleur, Metrolink saw no fewer than 45.6 million journeys are being made, and in November alone, 4.2 million passengers. Key information here: there is a market engagement day taking place on the 10th of June with a formal market engagement notice scheduled to be published just a couple of weeks away on the 15th of May.
So this is under the Procurement Act then?
It certainly will be. It certainly will be. And again, a little bit of a running theme here, something that I'm sure that we can keep an eye on and see that one play out from a procurement perspective over the course of time.
So I think that's all the articles or news that we've got for this one in our first episode.
How do you think it went? Okay, yeah,
I think so, yeah.
Be interesting to get people's comments, won't it?
Yeah, or if there's any news that they see that they want us to talk about, then do let us know in the comments and we can include those in future news videos. But yeah, we better get back to trying to find some for the next episode or the next video, shall I say, in terms of what news we'll cover then. But yeah, if you've got any comments on any of the articles that we have talked about today, leave them in the comment section and it would be great to have a discussion on some of these. And yeah, if you've liked this video and enjoyed the conversations that we had, please give it a like. Please subscribe to our channel. It will massively help us out and grow. And yeah, we will bring some more content to you very soon.
Absolutely. And hopefully as well, I'm looking at my window right now and the weather is absolutely beautiful. And we've got a nice weekend ahead of us, and hopefully the good weather will continue and you all enjoy it. So yeah, excellent. Fantastic.
See you all soon.